Department of Agriculture in Madison has got open ears, but man, I am getting, even me, they're giving me pushback. And that crap, frankly, boys, just doesn't happen to me anymore these days. Where what do you mean you're not going to talk to me? You only got me to talk to.
Hey, folks, thanks for tuning in to the Todd Allbaugh Show for Monday, September 15th. We've got about a minute till we kick it off.
Thanks, everybody.
A law review with Jim Santel.
Louisiana versus Calais, Callais, could deal a death blow to the impact, the power, the capacity of the Supreme Court to decide Voting Rights Act cases. This is one of those times when the Supreme Court needs to hear from the public about the appropriate resolution of this major case that could compromise the Voting Rights Act going forward beyond Louisiana.
Amicus, a law review with Jim Santel. Saturday mornings from 9 to 11.
20 seconds.
John Peterson and
Thank
Gordon
you.
Young.
Tuesday morning, we'll talk to Gary Albrecht. He's a cancer survivor, and he'll
From the Civic Media World Headquarters in Madison, Wisconsin, it's the Todd Allbaugh Show. And now, pursuing truth wherever it may lead, here's your host, Todd Allbaugh.
Across Wisconsin on the Civic Media Radio Network and streaming worldwide on the Civic Media app. Good afternoon, everybody. Todd Allbaugh along with Mr. Aaron Zommers on the board. It is 6 minutes past the hour of 2 o'clock on this Monday, September 15th, 2025. It is a great day to be a Wisconsinite. Back to work, back to school. Spectacular fall day here in downtown Madison on State Street at the world headquarters of Civic Media. Aaron Zommers, how the heck are you?
Doing well. Had a nice weekend. Got a lot done at home. Got to jam out a little, play some music with some friends.
Nice.
How about you?
Saturday was a little, as my grandma used to say, done in. And so stayed at home, kind of did some things around the house, kind of recouped from a very, very busy week news-wise last week, and watched the Badgers, our Wisconsin Badger football team down in Alabama, as Keith Jackson used to say. And going in, remember Mike Clemens, a great sports reporter, I said the line was 20 out in the desert, that, Alabama was expected to win by 20. That was the betting line. And Clemens said it's up to 22. And I said, I'm not, but if I were a betting man, I'd probably put $100 on the over on that. I should have done that because Wisconsin lost by a score of 38-14 to the Crimson Tide. Did not look good at all. That last, and really the offense only scored one touchdown because the other touchdown was from special teams. So we'll get into more of that later, but yeah, not a great look for Wisconsin and Alabama, and really an already a must-win situation when the Maryland Terrapins come to Camp Randall on Saturday. So we'll talk more about that a little later. On the upside, what a weekend for the Crew. Milwaukee Brewers have clinched the postseason and got an absolutely spectacular come-from-behind win on Saturday night against the dreaded St. Louis Cardinals. Crew won 9-8 in 10 innings. Was down there yesterday with Brady Ewing and the boys, his family, at County Stadium, at AmFam Field yesterday, and you thought maybe they'd have the same thing come back in the ninth, but just couldn't get it done. Great pitching by the Cardinals, and Milwaukee lost in 9 innings, 3-2 yesterday. They get back underway here tomorrow. At home, we got the day off today. They're back underway tomorrow against the Los Angeles Angels. 6:05 for the pregame show on many of our stations tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow night, with the first pitch just after 6:30. You can hear it on RCE in Richland Center, ISS in Oshkosh, and our new station WBZH in Hayward. But the Crew got that first big milestone, which is securing a postseason berth. And so while I was in Milwaukee yesterday at AmFam Field, I went down to the gift shop. I wanted a large. This is a little tight, but it works. It was either a medium or a double XL. And I'm like, well, So I've got the October Baseball 2025 t-shirt, because anytime you're playing in October, that means you made the playoffs. So I'm all set to go. Great. We'll talk more about that a little bit later as well. Great time with Brady and his family. Just great people. Appreciate him coming on every other week. So try to take him to one game a year just to say thank you. That was a lot of fun. So those were the sports headlines, and we're going to play you here in just a while. We're going to play you a really, I still get goosebumps hearing it and talking about it. Bob Uecker, the great announcer, wrote a letter to the Brewers and gave it to owner Mark Attanasio before he passed away in January, in case the crew got back to the playoffs. And on Saturday night, Pat Murphy, the manager, read that letter. And we've got the audio thanks to our great sports reporter, Mike Clemens. We're going to play you the full thing here in just a little bit. Also coming up on this show at the bottom of this hour, my former boss, former Senate Majority Leader Dale Schultz, Republican from Richland Center, is going to be in via phone discussing political violence and also civil discourse. He's going to be out in public talking with former Democratic Dane County Sheriff Dave Mahoney and one of the great jurists in Wisconsin, Dave Donninger, are doing a public forum on civility and our constitutional crisis in Greene County this week. Going to talk to him about that. Dale received death threats of his own in his political career. How did he deal with them? And what does he think of the current situation? And then in hour number 2, do not miss it. Coming up at 3:06, in hour 2, State Senator Kelda Royce, a frequent guest on this program, announced this morning via video that she is running for the Democratic nomination for Wisconsin governor. We're going to talk live to State Senator Kelda Royce here coming up in hour 2. Find out how her first full day as a gubernatorial candidate is going. And a what's worse, dentist or doctor, in hour 2 as well. Want to start out with a clip from former Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg. He was on Meet the Press on NBC yesterday. And I think as more news and disinformation came out over the weekend over the assassination of Charlie Kirk, this is a good place to start for this discussion today. Here is former Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg.
There is a sickness, not just the sickness of somebody who would pick up a gun and shoot someone, but I think a broader societal sickness that, frankly, I think you could see and feel in how many people around America, normal people, not dangerous people, were at a moment when we all should have still been praying for the victim and his family, were busy online praying for some shred of evidence that the shooter would turn out to be from the other political team. That is not healthy, and that is not a way forward, but that is exactly what the algorithm pushes us to do. And this does seem to be especially acute for young men. Young men right now, statistically, are the group most likely to spend most of their time alone. That is a prescription for a deeper societal level of pain and unraveling that we have got to turn around. We can't go on like this. And I think it's especially important to remember that some of the very same people who are in these conversations online will be perfectly normal offline. That's why we do need to just put down the phone, put down the computer, step out and talk to each other in environments where our humanity comes through.
Former Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg. It encapsulates, perhaps better than I could, my own feelings. Zomers and I talked about this before today's show, talked about it with a great director of operations, our immediate supervisor, Luke Mathers. We were sitting there, and our owner and CEO, as he occasionally does, kind of came by and said, and we got into a conversation about this with Sage. Here's my feeling, folks. The amount of time, and I'm not complaining, very grateful to have this job. The amount of time it takes now for me to make sure that the information we're passing on about this major event or any other is getting greater and greater. Why? Because it used to be that you could say, well, okay, the FBI said this. Well, they're going to be truthful. The FBI is now controlled by Kash Patel, which is essentially doing the Trump bidding. You add into that the huge amounts, we talked about this last week, Russian bots and Chinese bots, in other words, made up people online by computers who are putting out disinformation, inaccurate information to drive us against ourselves, you guys. To drive us against ourselves. Reviewing the fluidity of last week's events with the assassination of Charlie Kirk, I feel pretty good about the information we passed on to you. Remember, we said it was fluid. This is what we know at the time. The alleged shooter, we told you he was white. That's true. Christian Mormon home. That's true. His parents, longtime Republicans, Trump supporters. That's true. Pro-gun family, NRA members. That's true. I think the only thing, and I'll correct myself, the only piece of information I passed on from this program last week that we don't know now is true or not, it doesn't appear to be, was that I said that his dad was a former sheriff or 27-year law enforcement official. That part I got wrong. So I want to clean that up. But I can't come on this show every day and try to give you all the accurate information on things like this. It's just too overwhelming. We're not equipped for it, quite frankly. And neither does, I think, it do any good to come on here and gin things up from a talk format and pit each other against you and have these screaming conversations or demeaning conversations or angry conversations. What I want to do, I hope we're equipped to, and we're going to talk about this a little bit more in the show. Our friend Kira Sabin, positivity, life psychologist, life coach, had a great post this weekend. I'm going to summarize it. We'll talk more about it a little bit. And she said, as we talked last week, our brains physiologically are not capable of digesting daily drama and trauma. Not capable. And while we can never stop bad things from happening in the world, also simultaneously, there are all kinds of good things. And just because we talk about the good in the world doesn't mean that we're putting on Pollyanna or rose-colored glasses and ignoring the bad. We'll still talk about politics and current events. But to do deep dives and to suss this out and to have arguments about it, what I hope is more productive is A, sharing the good in this state, because there's a lot of it. We travel around. We brought you those stories. Going to continue to do that. And B, bringing folks on, and I know he happens to be my former boss, but I have him on anyway. Dale Schultz, a guy who actually got death threats as a state senator in this state. I was there. We're going to talk about how he handled that, how he continues to handle that this week. Not hiding away in a hole, but going out in public, along with Dave Mahoney, a Democrat, former sheriff, along with Dave Donninger, a judge, having good conversations in our communities and realizing what Trygve Olsen keeps reminding us as someone who's fought authoritarianism and dictators in Eastern Europe, around the world, to the point where Vladimir Putin himself has banned Trygve from ever coming to Russia. So the guy knows something about how to handle authoritarianism. He reminds us, Trygve does, that our enemies are not our neighbors, guys. Not our neighbors. Our neighbors are our neighbors. And how do we listen to each other and understand each other and create community? Because that's the best thing I can help do. I can't come on the air and solve all of political violence. I can't come on the air, and I don't have the team or the ability or the time to do the hard research of putting and trying to give you the counterpoint on every piece of social media stuff out there. But what I can do is come on and help tell the truth about Wisconsin, what we do know, try to put it in context of family and neighbors and fellow Wisconsinites. And I don't think that's being Pollyanna-ish or saying, oh, you don't want to talk about the hard stuff. I think it's more difficult today than maybe ever before to look across the backyard fence and say, even though they put a Biden-Harris or a Trump-Vance yard sign in their yard, I can still respect them as a neighbor and a fellow human being. And that's where it starts, in my opinion. That's where we can actually make progress in Wisconsin, in each of our communities, realizing that our neighbors and our community members, there's so much more that unites us than divides us. And if we just heard Pete Buttigieg say, and we heard that Buttigieg, obviously Democrat, and we'll come back after this on the Civic Media Right Radio Network and talk more about it.
It's not letting me play any sounds. That's really weird.
Okay.
One-on-one fittings are tailored
Okay, we
to
can
your
hear that.
unique
What
shape
about this?
in a graceful, no-pressure environment. From everyday comfort to special occasion elegance, Allure makes sure your bra fit feels as good as it looks. Experience a new standard of personal attention, coming soon to the Hilldale Shopping Center. Visit allurefits.com.
Is your computer so slow you can hardly use it? Does it have blue screens, malware, viruses, reboots, hardware crashes? Sound familiar? Computers will have problems, and when they do, you need the computer experts at Madison Computer Works. Every day we help home users and businesses keep their computers and networks running smoothly. For solutions to your computer problems, call the pros at 231-8000, and we'll turn this into this. Madison Computer Works. Computers that work for you.
At Hazelden Betty Ford, treating mental health isn't just about breaking old patterns, it's about braving new ones. As the leader in alcohol and drug treatment for 75 years, we know caring for addiction, anxiety, depression,
Those watching the
trauma
screen, we
goes
are
hand in hand.
we are testing our
We're
equipment
here
as
for
they
you
say.
with new
It
tools
works
when
again.
life breaks
Right.
down.
I'm
Discover
going to
your
have to
path
contact
to better
engineering
mental health at
and let them know that
hazeldenbettyford.org/Wisconsin.
there's goofy things
Sponsored
going
by
on.
Hazelden Betty Ford
There's
Foundation.
goofy things, Summers tells us.
Green and Gold football is back at the Lazy Oaf Lounge. Catch the games on 14 large screen TVs. Join meat and jersey raffles at halftime during regular season games and enjoy half-price wings and beer bucket specials. And the Lazy Oaf is a great place for lunch with daily specials, soups made from scratch, and fast, friendly service. The Lazy Oaf Lounge, 1617 North Stoughton Road. Find specials, menus, and more at lazyoaflounge.com.
Small businesses are the heart
20
of
seconds.
America. As the nation's largest nonprofit resource of expert.
Pursuing the truth wherever it may lead and having fun doing it. Welcome back to the Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network. 22 now past the hour, 2 o'clock on Monday, September 15th, 2025. The gremlins have been worked out. If the last segment sounded like it ended abruptly, it's because it did. Normally, and this is how good Zommers is, some people, they watch the clock. And that's when when you're going to break, and you got to wrap it up. I have relied so much on Zommers because he's so good. He starts the music 30 seconds, and as soon as I hear the music, I'm like, all right, I got 30 seconds. And pretty soon I see him waving his arms because the computer froze up. It wasn't Zommers, and we couldn't play the music going out because the computer is Zommers.
Well, it's all good now.
All right, but I want to let people know it wasn't you. It was just sometimes things don't work right. That's just the way it goes, and you move on. So, welcome back to the show. Dale Schultz, former Senate Majority Leader, talking on political violence and good conversation. How to have disagreeable conversations without being disagreeable on community. Looking forward to that. And State Senator Keller Royce, in hour 2, just after the top of the hour at 3 o'clock, she announced her run for governor today. Going to be talking about that. Finishing up this conversation on the headlines of the week, we played the cut from former Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg from Meet the Press yesterday saying that, look, we got to get offline. We can't be consumed with this disinformation from both sides. And this is being propagated by places like Russia and China to pit us against ourselves. And living online ain't healthy. Doesn't matter who you're supporting. All right, Zommers?
Yeah, one thing on that, actually, we could maybe ask Dale about when he's on. He told us about a book called Bowling Alone that was written around the year 2000 about, a trend that the author saw then of people spending a lot more time alone and not talking to everyone else. And
Right.
the internet's made that so much worse.
No,
And it's still relevant today.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It really is. And the more we talk to each other, the better off we are. Quickly, let's go to the phone lines. Troy in Mount Horeb, listening to WMDX. Troy, thanks for calling. What say you?
See, quickly, I guess, I don't know how to talk to these people because they didn't vote for a normal Republican. They didn't vote for Bob Dole. They didn't even vote for George Bush. They voted for a racist rapist. And, if I don't understand that, and I'm proud that I don't understand that because I don't want to have understood how you could vote for that guy. And if that shuts people out of my life, that's fine because I'm fine letting them go.
Right.
Because that's who they are.
I appreciate the comments as always, Troy, and I get where you're coming from. And certainly, if people are unhealthy in our lives, it's better not to have them in it, right? If there's just no way to get around that. But I do think it's important to bring a curiosity and say why, and think to ourselves, and we're not here to fix everybody, at least I'm not, but like to think to myself, okay, why does that person feel that way? Do they have hurt or do they have unfortunate circumstances in their own life that cause them to want to support something that I don't agree with? Doesn't mean we're always going to see eye to eye, but can we say, hey, we might disagree on this, but we can still talk about the Packers, or we can still raise money for our local EMS together and help out our communities. I'm not saying that we have to condone things that we don't agree with, but I'm just saying, myself at least, I think I could use a better job of trying to understand people. But I appreciate the call, Troy. Thank you so much. Mark in Pernisac. Mark, we're up against the clock. If you can make it brief, please, my friend. Go ahead.
Yeah, I hear again the condemnation of the word empathy, and it was claimed, that's a brand new word. Well, it may be actually coined, that when I looked up, it's coined from a German word back in 1908, but the concept of empathy is quite old. I mean, I guess David Hume and Adam Smith actually spoke of it as a fellow feeling among your fellow human beings. But of course, the Bible is filled with empathic emotions in there, and the actual word, the definition of it, the ability to understand and share the feelings of another. And Charlie Kirk actually used empathy to gain support among the people that like him. He said, "You are feeling put upon. You're not getting the jobs you want. You don't have the wealth you want. You're not getting the opportunities you want. I understand that." And it's interesting that a man who condemns the word empathy used his understanding of other people to, gain support and channel their energies and their anger toward people they shouldn't be angry with. The people they should be angry with is the guys at the very top that have manipulated such a situation where all the wealth is in their hands, and we are supposed to fight over the scraps.
Yeah, appreciate the comments, Mark. Thank you so very much. 855-752-4842, 855-752-4842. We're going to continue talking about this perhaps a little bit more in hour two. We're actually going to continue the discussion with Dale Schultz. And in a lifelong Republican, 30-plus years in the legislature, in the Assembly, and the State Senate, ran for U.S. Congress in the 3rd District. And when I was working for him at various times, but particularly his last term from 2010 to 2014, he had a number of issues. Act 10, right? Scott Walker's Act 10, which divided the state in terms of basically getting rid of the ability for public unions to negotiate, public workers to negotiate, including teachers in the state. And Dale was one of the last people on the Republican side to announce where he was going to go with his vote, because he went out and listened to his constituents. And that resulted, as someone who was there, in a lot of hatred towards him from both sides, but particularly his own party, the Republican Party. And at the time, we still had fax machines, ran out of fax paper. Basically, phone lines got so clogged up that we couldn't answer phones because I had so many phone calls coming in. We're going to talk to Dale about what is it like to have a death threat that involves you and your family, how he dealt with that, and his advice on dealing with our friends and neighbors in today's political climate. Don't go anywhere. A conversation with former Senate Majority Leader Dale Schultz after this, and State Senator Kelda Royce on our gubernatorial announcement at the top of the hour. It's the Allbaugh Show on Civic Media.
0.7 WMDX, helping to keep Madison weird.
Come work with us. Civic Media has a number of great jobs across the state. Open now at civicmedia.us/careers.
Oh, commodity prices are getting squeezed at the farm gate, but there is one element that may at least remain flat. I'm Pam Yankee with a quick update on what's happening in food and farming news on a Monday. What is that element? Answer next.
From sugar beet fields to dairy facilities, producers count on an operating line of credit from Ag Country Farm Credit Services to help make their operations more profitable. With multi-year commitment options, digital tools and remote deposit, and the ability to only borrow what you need when you need it, our operating line of credit makes financing your needs easier. Visit agcountry.com/line of credit or call 800-450-9858 to learn more. Terms apply. See website for details.
One of the major expenses that farms look at during the harvest is diesel costs. Jason Schwantz is the Senior Vice President of Energy with CHS Cooperative. He said, well, supplies have been
I didn't have
little
anything to
tight
eat today,
through the summer
or before
months
the show.
because some refineries have been retooling.
Little
Now he
burpee. I
says
apologize to
producers
people on the
should
street.
hopefully be looking forward to a little bit lower, if not flat, costs. But he advises, buy early.
I think we're going to kind of be in this trough here. Fuel is a little more expensive, but from a year ago, it's actually down. So I
Now
think
we
right
have
now
Dale.
is actually a good time to buy.
Initially,
think
I
supply
called a
is
number,
gonna
I
get
flipped
tighter
2 of the
as we go
digits,
into that harvest.
and it rang for a
Producers
while,
have
and I'm
heavy
like, I was
demand.
expecting a call. Why is it
And from
taking so
everything
long?
I've
And
heard,
then
there
someone
is an
picked up,
extremely
some
good
woman
corn and
who's just
soybean
like,
crop out there,
you're who?
which
You're
I
what?
think
And I'm
everybody
like,
is
oh,
very
I called the
happy
wrong
about.
number.
I
I'm
don't
sorry.
know that they're exactly
goodness
happy
sake.
about where the commodity prices are at, but hopefully we
Surprised
can
I
have a
haven't done
bountiful
that
harvest
before
and
when
have a
calling
really good
people for
crop
the
out
show.
there, but it's going to take a lot of fuel to go over that crop.
That advice from Jason Schwantz, the Senior Vice President of Energy for CHS Cooperative. He said, well, some refineries did retool this summer. Others have yet to do their retooling. He said that's why they're bringing more supplies to the marketplace right now.
BioVet combines the latest research and technology to develop high-quality microbial and nutritional solutions for your operation. BioVet's innovative product line supports the immune system, digestive function, reproduction, along with growth and development of your livestock. Learn more at bio-vet.com and visit us at World Dairy Expo booth number EH1503 and 1504. EH1503 and 1504.
Innovation, that's BioVet.
And today, Wisconsin Senator Pat Testin and Representative Scott Krug are introducing a bill that opens the doors for farmers and solar developers to work together locally to generate power that subscribers in Wisconsin can use. It also will give local towns and municipalities control over siting those projects. We'll keep you posted. That's a look at what's happening in food news for a Monday. More at MidwestFarmReport.com. I'm Pam Yankee.
Join the family. Civic Media has a number of great jobs across the state. Open now at civicmedia.us/careers.
Hi, meteorologist Brandon Bormans. It will continue to feel like summer for much of this week. Sunny skies expected for today with highs in the mid-80s. Mostly clear tonight with lows in the upper 50s. Plenty of sunshine again on Tuesday, a high of 84. You guessed it, more the same on Wednesday. Sunny with a high of 84. Right now, 82.
Not completing high school is more of a social thing than it was an academic thing. Even though all these years have passed, I still had that longing to have my diploma.
At age 30, Carissa finished her high school diploma.
If you're even considering getting your high school diploma, you can do it.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org. That's finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
Oh, this is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio. On our show, we share stories from Turtle Island highlighting the people and issues shaping our communities. From protecting water to treaty rights and preserving languages and traditions.
About 30
we
seconds.
Cover
Gracias.
Hear voices like Orvina Martin of Emerge, Wisconsin, Dr. Stately, Robert Lilligren, and more. Because Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues.
Native Roots.
He'd say you've got to stand for something or you'll fall for anything. You've got to be your own man, not a puppet on a string. And never compromise what's right and uphold your family name. Oh, you've got to stand for something or you'll fall for anything.
Welcome back to the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network. 35 minutes now past the hour at 2 o'clock on Monday, September 15th, 2025. Appreciate Zommers on the board. That song usually means we got one guest on the other side. He is former State Senate Majority Leader Dale Schultz, a Republican from Richland Center, who joins us via phone. And in the auspices of full disclosure, he also is one of my former bosses as well. Dale, I appreciate you taking time on short notice to join us today. How are you?
Well, I'm terrific. Like a lot of people, I'm busy taking care of my fall chores, a little touch-up painting here and there, and the like to get ready for winter.
I know you're always a busy guy out there, whether it's in town or on your farm there, you and your wife run. So I appreciate you taking the time. And I wanted to bring you on. I appreciate you doing this because knowing you so well, I know you're not always comfortable talking about this stuff because you don't like to draw attention to your own stories, but you're uniquely qualified to talk about the moment. So I appreciate this. And that is when you were the last term from 2010 to 2014, after you were Senate Majority Leader, and Act 10 came up in the Capitol, Scott Walker's bill to attack collective bargaining for public workers in this state. You were one of the last Republicans to tell people how you were going to vote because you went across your district and listened first. And that resulted in a number of threats into your office while I was working for you. Back then, we still had fax machines. We ran out of fax paper. The phones got so tied up we couldn't even take calls. Hundreds, if not thousands of emails, and you received death threats. And I want people to understand that the worst of it came from people who allegedly were from your own party, Republicans and conservatives. And the worst it got, and I double checked to make sure I was telling the truth with our former colleague TJ, and he remembered it the same way. As far as I could tell, Dale, you had the office shut down, closed for one day. And that is when someone put a bomb threat, a death threat through the mail slot in your office door at the state capitol. And you told us all to leave for the day, had the Capitol Police involved. TJ actually insisted on coming back later that night. I said, "What are you doing?" He goes, "I'll clean it up for radio." He said, "Look, I got stuff I got to get done. Screw it. I'm going in." And just talk to us, Dale, what that's like being an elected official and having death threats and threats against you and your family.
Well, I don't know that being an elected official makes it any more or less pleasant. The fact is that we all care about our kids and our spouses, and we cringe about the reality that someday somebody who's deranged might do something horrible. It gives everybody who's involved a sense of a real concern. But let me just talk to this in a broader sense and make it more relevant to what's happening now and a little less about me. You know, what we have let happen in this country is we've decided to turn politics over to the moneyed political class that's really run by a bunch of consultants who make a ton of money telling politicians how they can stay in office forever and enjoy all the perks associated with what goes on. And their basic message is ginning up hate. And they know and they can present facts to you that really motivates people far more than if you would gin up a bunch of love. And that by itself is kind of depressing to me. But that's the reality. But the choice of what you do cannot be blamed over on consultants, even if they're the principal actor in this little play of ours. It's really up to you. And yeah, I don't care whether you're a Republican or a Democrat right now. The first thing I tell people when they talk to me, my former colleagues and new legislators, is, maybe you ought to look in the mirror and you ought to consider once in a while the other guy might be right. I remember being in the legislature when we were really concerned about out of control anger on the floor of the state Senate. And the majority leader and the minority leader would get together, go behind closed doors with the offending party and calm them down and point out that this was against our traditions, it's against our rules. We're not here to punish them. We want them to have an opportunity to express themselves. But this is really spoiling it for everyone, and it's going to lead to less talk, less compromise down the road, particularly among our constituents. They don't do that anymore. People either don't talk or they get really angry. And pretty soon the consultants are ginning it up with constituents at election time. And the politicians, instead of, eschewing this, sort of reinforce it. And I think we all know that both sides do this. I tend to be a little more critical of my former colleagues because I thought we Republicans were better than this. I guess that's not so much true anymore. And I think if we're ever going to get out of this, it's going to be when the public decides they've had enough and throws all the bums out. And particularly the ones that can't ever find a way to sit down with anybody and work something out.
We're talking to former Wisconsin State Senate Majority Leader Dale Schultz, Republican, from his home in Richland Center via phone, talking about political violence, discourse, how to better conversations. Dale, we played a cut from former Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg at the top of the show. He was on Meet the Press this weekend saying, hey, part of this is just putting down our electric devices, getting off the internet because there's so much disinformation, and reconnecting with our neighbors. Now, I'll clean this up a little bit for radio, but when I was your chief of staff and during Act 10 and some of this stuff, television was still a bigger thing, and so we'd watch. I would have a small TV monitoring state programs and national programs. I can't remember what the issue was specifically, but you came in off the floor one day and you said, "What are you watching?" And I told you about whatever program it was. I said, and we've been getting a lot of emails, and this is just terrible. And you cut me off, and you said, turn that crap off. What is this doing to solve the problem? We're here to ameliorate the situation. And to cut the tension, I looked at you and said, not only that, we should make it better. So, I mean, but you were, and that was a great lesson for me, because you were less concerned about what was hot on TV or the internet and more about solving problems and connecting, like Buttigieg said today, with our communities. And I really admire you, and I thank you for teaching me that lesson.
Well, that's very kind of you, Todd. And I think Pete Buttigieg is entirely right. What I've been preaching for a couple of years now is engagement. And by that, I mean exactly what Pete Buttigieg said. Get out of your own little world, set down your little echo chamber with your smart device, and go talk to your neighbors. And you don't even have to talk about politics. Just get to know them and find out what's motivating them, what's concerning them. There's a lot of pain out there, and it is confined to one political party or the other. And we've got to reconnect with our neighbors. But I'd also like to tell you another little story, and I think I've said this on the air before. But, during Act 10, I was the last person to indicate how they were going to vote. And the rationale behind that was, as you said, it didn't make a lot of sense to me to decide how I was going to vote and then go out and list to my constituents. They'd have spotted me for a phony like they did everybody else in about 3 seconds. I went out and took the heat. Everybody was mad at me. Everybody was demanding I vote their way. And there were times when I had picketers in front of my house, particularly I remember one snowy morning when it was really cold. I had a whole bunch of picketers out here. I think the majority of them might have been teachers, but they were a lot of different people as well. And instead of yelling at them or calling the cops, I just went out my back door and walked around the house quietly and non-threateningly. And I said, I'm really concerned about you, and I hear you, and I'm here to listen to you. And I said, I just have one thing I'd like to do in advance. And I stopped, turned, and went on the front porch and got a bucket of sand and brought it down and sanded the sidewalk. And I said, look, I don't want anybody to get hurt out here. That would just be silly. And furthermore, before we get started here, I just want to add one parenthetical note, and that is, if you feel like you need more sand on these sidewalks, you're free to go up on my porch and get the sand and take care of the sidewalks. Now, let's talk about things and tell me what's on your mind. And the conversation didn't last a long time. It was only about maybe 5 minutes. I had to get to Madison. But I think that kind of a gesture by a politician that's a little disarming, a little bit open, goes a long, long way with people in pain. And it would be nice if we saw a few more of our elected officials doing that rather than preaching how fearful they are of their constituents. We don't need that.
I'm so glad you told that story. That's why I wanted you to share it again with people, because I think it epitomizes how you dealt with people who didn't always agree. Instead of calling the cops or saying, or getting your firearm out, you took sand out to make sure that the people protesting against you were okay. And also, for the record, so people know, Dale was the only Republican that voted against Act 10 and against Scott Walker, against his own party in that issue. But Dale, we're talking about former Senate Majority Leader Dale Schultz. What do you make of people in Wisconsin? Robin Voss has talked about this, and now we're hearing legislators in D.C. Everybody's scared. Oh my gosh, I'm scared. Why are people today, not everybody, but there's so many electeds who are now scared versus what you did when you had people protesting outside your personal home?
Well, what I didn't tell you in advance of that is I probably, and you know this to be a fact, probably traveled further and farther in my district listening to my constituents on a regular basis than almost any of my colleagues. I would say to the current leadership in the state legislature and in Congress, why don't you get off these phony baloney phone call town hall meetings where you know that you're being screened when you call in, and it's basically a giant commercial, and go out and meet your constituents and meet them before there's a problem. It's hard for people or social media to tell lies about you if they already know you. So just go out there and sit down with them. You don't have to solve all the problems or own anybody. Just go out and lend a sympathetic ear and listen. And if you ask a question, answer it briefly and transparently.
And isn't it telling, Dale, to your point you just made, people like Tammy Baldwin, U.S. Senator Tammy Baldwin, are going out and meet with people. People like Mark Buchanan, congressman here from the 2nd District, doing that. Derek Van Orton in the 3rd District refuses to meet with his own constituents by and large. And I think you nailed it, Dale. If you know your constituents, you're not going to be fearful. I think that's so important. Do you have 5 more minutes, or you got to run?
No, I'll stay 5 minutes.
All right, just going to up against the clock here, but I want to come back, and we're going to talk specifically with Dale about this forum he's having this week with former Democratic Sheriff Dave Mahoney and Judge Dave Donninger. We'll talk about that on the other side. It's the Town Allbaugh Show for a Monday on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Reach, engage, grow with Civic Media. Log on civicmedia.us/advertise.
I'm still going for it, even with higher stroke risk from atrial fibrillation and a regular heartbeat not caused by a heart valve problem. Over a 3-year study, Eliquis apixaban tablets reduce stroke risk better than warfarin, and over 97% of Eliquis patients did not experience a stroke. A first stroke occurred in 2.9% of warfarin patients versus 2.3% of Eliquis patients.
Don't stop prescription Eliquis without asking your doctor. Stroke risk may increase. Eliquis can cause serious and potentially fatal bleeding. Don't take if you have an artificial heart valve, abnormal bleeding, or antiphospholipid syndrome. While taking, you may bruise more easily or bleed longer. A spinal injection increases blood clot risk, which may cause paralysis. Get medical help right away for unexpected bleeding or bruising, or back pain, tingling, numbness, muscle weakness, or incontinence. Aspirin products, NSAIDs, SSRIs, SNRIs, and blood thinners increase bleeding risk. Tell your doctor about planned medical or dental procedures. Learn more at Eliquis.com or call 1-855-ELIQUIS.
Shop Furlough Mattress during our Labor Day sale. It's our biggest sale of the season. Get a free box spring with a mattress purchase, or upgrade to an adjustable base and save even more. At Furlough, every mattress we make is factory direct and custom made locally for you, and it's backed by our lifetime comfort guarantee. Don't fall for the other guy's mattress gimmicks. Furlough has no middleman, so you'll get the comfort you want and save a whole lot of money. American made, locally crafted. Furlough.
Hi, my name is Chuck Collins. I'm the great-grandson of the meatpacker Oscar Mayer and a member of the Patriotic Millionaires. I'm also the author of a new book, Burned by Billionaires: How Concentrated Wealth and Power Are Ruining Our Lives and Planet. This summer proved to all of us that climate change is real and it is deadly. And I'm here to tell you that a small group of billionaires are making it worse. Did you know that billionaire Jeff Bezos' wife, Lauren Sanchez, emitted more carbon in her 11-minute Blue Origin space flight than the average person emits in a lifetime? Did you know that the average super yacht produces as much carbon emissions as 1,500 regular vehicles, and that private jets emit 10 to 20 times more pollutants per passenger than commercial airplanes? So who should pay for climate change? People like you who recycle and turn off the lights when you leave the room, or billionaires who take joy rides in space? Tax the rich, tax the rich, tax the rich. I'm Chuck Collins. I'm a patriotic millionaire, and I approve this message.
Hey there, Wisconsin. Tom Hartman here. Democracy is not a spectator sport, so join me each and every weekday right here on Civic Media for the Tom Hartman program.
Fun doing it. Welcome back to the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network. Now 8 minutes before the hour of 3 o'clock, at the top of the hour, ABC or CBS News, depending upon which of our great stations you're listening to. Weather update, sports, the great Mike Clemens, and then surprise, surprise, this is fantastic. We thought we were going to talk to State Senator Kelda Royce, who announced her gubernatorial run this morning. It appears she's going to be in studio with us, sitting right here beside us. So that'll be fantastic. Looking forward to that. Right now, wrapping up our discussion, our conversation with former Republican Senate Majority Leader, State Senator Dale Schultz of Southwest Wisconsin, joining us via phone from his home in Richland Center. Dale, appreciate the time, was having that great conversation about political discourse, political violence. You made the great point that one of the reasons you weren't afraid when people protested your home, one of the reasons you didn't call the cops or get a firearm out, that you went out and put sand out there in the winter for people protesting you for their own safety, was because you knew your constituents. And I think you're absolutely right. Our elected officials would be a lot better served if they did the same thing. To that end, you have not stopped doing that. Meeting with Wisconsinites. Our mutual friend, your former colleague, State Senator Tim Cullen, late great Tim Cullen, Democrat. You and he went out, talked about gerrymandering a lot. Also, former State Senator, Majority Leader Bob Jauch. You guys have talked about the environment and politics, and now you're doing it with former Dane County Sheriff Democrat Dave Mahoney and former appellate court judge David Deininger. You guys are going to be down in the beautiful community of Belleville at Belleville High School Auditorium this Wednesday from 6 until 7:30 on Constitution Day. It's being sponsored by Hands Off Nuclearis and the Belleville Liberty Bells. Love that. Talk to us, Dale, about what you and former Sheriff Mahoney and Judge David Deininger are doing down in Belleville this Wednesday.
Well, let me just say we've spent the first segment talking about a problem. And I always believe that that's fine, because you should talk about problems, but you also should try to formulate a plan to make things better. And heaven knows we need a lot of plans to make things better. But one of the ideas that I like, that I heard, that I've decided to sign on with, with a great deal of passion, is the notion of fusion voting. And fusion voting is something that existed in this country up until the end of the 1800s or early part of the 19th or 20th century, and it ended because the political parties decided they wanted to control the voters and the political process to a greater extent. But prior to that time, we allowed people to vote for multiple candidates for the same office, and their votes could be fused. In other words, you could vote for Dave Mahoney for sheriff, and if I lived in Dane County, I could vote for Dave Mahoney for sheriff, and we could be in two different political parties, and our votes would be fused together. What this does is this puts the 40% of the populace that doesn't like either political party anymore in the driver's seat. That they will have agency in the political process, and that what they do basically is they go to a candidate they like and say, we'd like to put you on our ballot, and even though you're running as a Republican or as a Democrat, we'd like to put you on our ballot, and if we have fusion voting, you get to count our votes with the votes from any other political party that's supporting you. And in a state like Wisconsin, where you have very slim margins, this allows people in the middle to have real agency. Because right now, we have a majority of a minority electing a lot of offices. And that leads to a lot of anger all by itself. And fusion voting is a way of ameliorating that problem. There are other ideas, but this is one that I think has a real opportunity to come to fruition. And to that end, we have sued the state of Wisconsin to allow us, like we did once upon a time in Wisconsin, to be able to do fusion voting. And I'd just like to say parenthetically, that's how the Republican Party was born, in Ripon, Wisconsin. Whigs, free soilers, anti-abortion, Grange, political parties came together, joined forces, and elected Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah.
And we have other states doing that right now. Kansas is trying to get back to fusion voting. Connecticut and New York do it. But if you want to empower those folks who are not so ideological, I'm not going to call them moderates, because there are many people who take centrist views who are very passionate about one thing or another. And I just want to deal them in.
Right.
The cure for a bad democracy is more democracy.
Republican Party today very different than when it was created in Ripon, Wisconsin. I would argue different when you were in office as well. Dale Schultz and Dave Mahoney, Republican and Democrat respectively, are the co-chairs of United Wisconsin. You can find more about fusion voting and the mission of United Wisconsin at unitedwisconsin, spelled out, .org. That's unitedwisconsin.org. You can catch them this Wednesday, September 17th, at the Belleville High School Auditorium from 6 until 7:30. In Belleville, talking about the Constitution, about fusion voting on Constitution Day. I can't think of a better way to celebrate our Constitution, Dale, than you and Dave Mahoney and Dave Deininger in a bipartisan, even nonpartisan fashion, talking about solutions and getting out and meeting people. That's where it's at, Dale.
Well, I couldn't have said it any better. And let me just say, come on out, all of you who are listening right now. Tell your friends, neighbors, and even your relatives. This is good for everybody, and we promise we'll have a good time. And hopefully, we can develop some more plans that we can work on together that will make this the special place that I know it to be.
Thanks, Dale. Really appreciate you. State Senator Kelda Royce on her gubernatorial race next on the Civic Media Radio Network.
This is 92.7
Thanks, Dale. If you can still hear me, appreciate it. Sorry about that. I cut you off against the clock, but great job.
Yep. Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks. Bye.
ABC News, I'm Michelle Franzen. In Utah, 22-year-old suspect Tyler Robinson set to be formally charged tomorrow for the fatal shooting of conservative activist Charlie Kirk. ABC's new legal contributor, Brian Buckmeyer, says it could include federal hate crime charges.
You can't have a hate crime based on politics, but Charlie Kirk's religion and politics are sort of intertwined. I could see an argument for this being motivated based on his religion and the mixture of his politics. The federal government could make a hate crime allowing for murder as well.
In the wake of the Kirk shooting, GOP House Speaker Mike Johnson today says House Republicans will attach $58 million to a short-term measure to fund the government, all to pay for extra security for the judicial and executive branches. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent signaled a framework deal after talks with a China delegation to avert a ban on TikTok in the U.S. That if China-based ByteDance doesn't sell. President Trump and China's leader expected to hold talks this week. This is ABC News.
Download the Civic Media app in the Google Play or Apple App Store and take us everywhere. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
For 92.7 WMDX News, I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. There's another candidate in the race for governor. Madison State Senator Kelda Royce is throwing her hat in the ring. Royce first entered Wisconsin politics more than 15 years ago. She served 2 terms in the Assembly and was elected to the state Senate in 2021. In office, she's championed women's health care rights, criminal justice reform, and fixing income inequality. In a campaign video released this morning, she focused on those issues.
In the Assembly, I helped 80,000 Wisconsinites finally get affordable health care. In the Senate, I worked with nurses to pass a bipartisan law repealing outdated regulations and expanding health care options for rural communities.
As a woman, I know what it's like to experience a physical examination, to go to a gynecologist's office. I know what that's like. And if you guys want to regulate this in this body, then you can stand here and listen to me speak about it.
Here's what Royce told Civic Media News Director Shali Pittman just after Governor Tony Evers announced he'd retire.
My whole goal is to think about what we can do to best serve Wisconsin. And that, to me, that means making sure that we elect Democrats up and down the ticket because the stakes are just incredibly high. We have to protect our people from what the Republican regime is doing in Washington, and we have to help build a state where there's opportunity and fairness for everyone, no matter who you are or where you're from.
This is not her first time running for governor. Roy's first attempt was in 2018. So far, she's up against Lieutenant Governor Sarah Rodriguez, Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley, and Milwaukee businessman Ryan Sternad. That's on the Democratic side. 2 Republicans have declared their candidacy, Washington County Executive Josh Schoeman and businessman Bill Berrien. We've got 11 months until the primary next August, and the election is over a year away next November. I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. You're listening to 92.7 WMDX News.
The Pack is back. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. NFL, the Packers get ready now to play the Cleveland Browns. The Browns losing to the Ravens yesterday in Baltimore, 41-17. But Jordan Love will be without one of his best receivers, Jaden Reed. Matt LaFleur.
Unfortunately, he broke his collarbone, so he'll be down for quite some time. We'll see. Certainly, I would expect him back at some point this season, but obviously it's a big blow to us.
College football, the Badgers host Maryland next after losing in Alabama, 38-14 on Saturday. Luke Fickell.
Well, that's obviously not easy to swallow, and the truth of the matter is I told those guys that was a much better team than we are right now.
Baseball, the Brewers lost to the Cardinals yesterday 3-2, but that's okay. The Crew, the first team in the major leagues this year to clinch a playoff spot.
It's been a joy for me to be around a group of guys that have taken that uncommon mindset as serious as they've taken it.
That's Pat Murphy with sports. I'm Mike Clemens.
Local news, weather, and sports on air and streaming on the Civic Media app. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
Hi, meteorologist Brandon Bormans. It will continue to feel like summer for much of this week. Sunny skies expected for today with highs in the mid-80s. Mostly clear tonight with lows in the upper 50s. Plenty of sunshine again on Tuesday, a high of 84. You guessed it, more the same on Wednesday. Sunny with a high of 84. Right now, 82.
The door open, that's fine.
I'm Rick Smith, host of The Rick Smith Show.
Me.
If you're looking for
while
honest
she gets
talk,
set
real
up,
stories,
then we
and
can switch
straight
over
up
to
news
cameras, okay?
that matters to you, tune in to The Rick Smith Show. We're digging into the issues that affect your job, your family, your future. Join me weeknights at 9 on the Civic Media Radio Network because your voice deserves to be heard. That's The Rick Smith Show, heard weeknights at 9 right here on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Doctors Without Borders is delivering life-saving medical care where it's needed most in communities around the world. From bandaging war-wounded patients in Sudan to providing clean drinking water in Haiti, we're in more than 70 countries worldwide, bringing patients from sick to recovering, from emergency to aid,
30
from
seconds.
crisis to care. This life-saving care.
Okay, I just went in. Can you change the names on that one too?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
From the Civic Media World Headquarters in Madison, Wisconsin, it's the Todd Allbaugh Show. And now, pursuing truth wherever it may lead, here's your host, Todd Allbaugh.
Across Wisconsin on the Civic Media Radio Network and streaming worldwide on the Civic Media app. Good afternoon, everybody. Todd Allbaugh along with Mr. Aaron Zommers on the board at 6 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on this Monday, September 15th, 2025. Welcome into hour number 2 of the program here from the world headquarters of Civic Media, downtown Madison on State Street. Zommers, not a cloud in the sky, a beautiful fall day.
Very blue out there.
I know, it is very blue. It's fantastic. Looking forward to that. Many thanks to Dale Schultz for being in the program in hour number 1. Talking about civil discourse, always a good thing. And looking forward to more of that coming up here in hour number 2. Coming up later this hour, what's worse for you, dentist or doctor? We'll talk about that. The lesser issues, the lesser serious issues here coming up on hour 2. Going to be talking with State Senator Kelda Royce in just a couple of minutes here. But before that, because I'm wearing my it's October baseball in Milwaukee, understand. Brewers clinching the national, or the a spot in the playoffs, not the Central yet. And but on the week on Saturday, Andrew Monasterio, Mona, better known as Mona, and he had a walk-off hit in 10 innings. Brewers were behind 6-1. And came back, tied it up, went to 10 innings. It was on Fox Sports, national program. Here is how they called it on Saturday in Milwaukee. We're waiting. There we go.
Monasterio up the middle, base hits. Here comes Durbin around third. The throw home, not in time. And the Brewers, on a day where they clinch, can celebrate properly. From down 6-1, 3 in the 9th to tie, 2 in the 10th to win it.
What an at-bat by Andrew Monasterio. What an at-bat. Fouling off pitch after pitch, finally gets a pitch he can do something with, rips it in.
How about that? What a great, and Frelick was there because Durbin came across the plate to score the winning run. Frelick mobs Durbin. They go over, they mob Mona. It was just a great time had by all. Really great post-game celebration in the locker room. Kristen Yelich had what I thought was a fantastic tempered speech. and we're going to play that a little bit later on in the show. So stay tuned for that. But right now, I want to turn our attention to matters here in that we rarely have a two-shot. We have a two-shot today for those watching on the stream. Our guest here in person, she's been on this program before, and we really appreciate her stopping by today. It's an exciting day for her. She is currently the state senator for the 26th Senate District here in Dane County, representing parts of Madison and Middleton. But today, after much anticipation, and not necessarily a surprise, at least to this anchor, she announced her run for Wisconsin governor on the Democratic side. Joining us in studio, none other than State Senator Kelda Royce. Senator, welcome. Congratulations.
Thank you, Todd. So happy to be here with you today.
Well, I appreciate you coming by and doing this in person. I know you got an enormously long day today. I want to start this out, if you want to, what we did with other candidates. I want to play about the first minute of your announcement today so people can hear this. We'll come back and discuss it. So we're playing about the first minute for all the candidates. Here is Senator Royce's announcement for governor this morning.
Wisconsin, we are in the fight of our lives for our democracy and our kids' future. But I've been in this fight before. When Scott Walker attacked Wisconsin workers, I was there. Now, as extremists attack our freedoms while families struggle to get by, we're fighting back together.
We never contemplated having such a lawless person at the helm of our country.
I'm Kelda Royce, and for 25 years, I've been fighting for Wisconsin alongside you and delivering. In the Assembly, I helped 80,000 Wisconsinites finally get affordable health care. In the Senate, I worked with nurses to pass a bipartisan law repealing outdated regulations and expanding healthcare options for rural communities.
As a woman, I know what it's like to experience a physical examination, to go to a gynecologist's office. I know what that's like. And if you guys want to regulate this in this body, then you can stand here and listen to me speak about it.
I've been protecting our freedoms when others didn't even see the threat coming. That's leadership. See the problem, build the coalition, deliver results. I've done it while raising 5 kids and running a small business, because when something matters, we find a way. Now, with everything on the line, Wisconsin needs a governor who's been training for this moment her whole career and who knows how to deliver.
That is State Senator Kelda Royce, and part of her video announcement this morning. A great tease there. If you want to learn more, see the whole thing, go to Kelda4Gov. That's Kelda, Kelda 4, spelled out FOR, Gov, Gov.com, Kelda4Gov.com. Senator Royce, why are you running for governor?
Todd, it's very simple. We need 2 things from our next governor. This is a challenging moment for Wisconsin, and we absolutely need someone who is going to stand up to the way that the Republican regime in Washington is harming Wisconsin families, and we have to protect Wisconsin families from the worst brunt of that chaos and corruption and the high costs that they're causing. But at the same time, it's a moment of real opportunity in our state, and we need a governor who knows how to deliver, whether the legislature is Democratic, Republican, or split. And I have done that throughout my career for more than 20 years on the issues that matter most to Wisconsinites.
What do you see as you travel around Wisconsin? You've talked about it on this program. What are you hearing? What do you see as the top couple of issues facing Wisconsinites in this run for governor?
Definitely the high costs on the things that matter most to people: healthcare, housing, prescription drugs, utilities, childcare. Trump ran promising to lower those costs, and everything that he's done is making it higher and harder for Wisconsinites. So we need our governor to prioritize increasing people's wages and reducing the costs on those big ticket items. Healthcare is right up there, as it always is, and public education, which we know has been underfunded for decades in our state, and our schools really can't do it anymore. We have to take some of the burden off our property taxpayers and help make sure that teachers and kids are prepared to succeed in the classroom.
Hate to ask this question, going to do it because we've talked about it on this show, and unfortunately it's pertinent once again. You've been on here before. We had political violence in Minnesota. You said it gave you pause, thinking of your own safety, that of your family. We heard from my former boss, State Senator Dale Schultz, that said he thinks one of the reasons that elected officials are so scared is that they're not getting out and meeting their constituents and enough. You're someone who has been out there. Did your safety, did your family's safety in light of what's happened recently play into your decision, and how do you feel about that today?
Certainly it is something that is on my mind, and it has been on my mind for over 20 years because I had just taken the helm at NARAL Pro-Choice Wisconsin when I got my first death threat. I think I was 24 years old. And it really underscored for me the fact that some people are really willing to commit violence to show you how much they disagree with you. And it is something that has become more and more prevalent in recent years. But I think I cannot stop speaking out on the things that matter. And I think all of us as Americans have a responsibility to say, listen, we get to disagree in this country. That is okay. But we do not get to use violence to solve our disputes. And when you look at the rhetoric and the actions of this president, he's essentially giving a permission slip to his constituents to attack people with whom they disagree. He pardoned the January 6th rioters. He pardoned people who are serving time in prison for attacking reproductive health clinics, right? I don't know what that is if not a permission slip to violent actors.
And Myra, you and anyone else who gets into elected office today, thank you for doing that and keeping the civil discourse going. Crowded field. David Crowley was on this program last week. Mayor Cavalier Johnson in Milwaukee has endorsed him. You've got yourself out there now. Lieutenant Governor Sarah Rodriguez is out there. That's just on the Democratic side. How do you differentiate in this primary that's getting more and more crowded and win this primary before going to the general?
Well, I think it's really important to show that I can appeal to Wisconsinites in every corner of the state. And I have spent my whole career, not just my time in the Senate and on the Finance Committee, really deeply listening to people in every part of Wisconsin, traveling to the state, meeting with them face to face in small groups and in large, and hearing their concerns and then taking them back and turning them into real policy and getting it done. And often it takes years to do that, right? Building that coalition, especially across partisan lines. But that's my specialty. And that's what we need in our next governor, somebody who has that track record of getting things done.
You've run for governor once before in 2018. I have my own feelings, but I want you to tell your own words. What's different about this run for governor versus your run in 2018?
Well, I think the world is totally different than it was in 2018. I mean, obviously, in that race, if you want to sort of get into the horse race aspect, Governor Evers had a huge head start, and deservedly so, because he was a very popular 3-time statewide elected official as state superintendent. And at that time, I had been out of politics for 6 years. I had been in the assembly for 2 terms, but then was running my small business and having my kids. And yet still I was able to build a really, I think, exciting movement around the state, finished in the top tier, and kind of built that out of nothing. Now I have an incredible infrastructure of support all over the state.
I mean, I've told you this off the air as well. I think you've grown as a candidate, grown as a legislator, and the fact that you had been one of those people that's out there listening to people, I think it makes you a stronger candidate this time around. But I want to give you time on this because this is your time announcing to run for governor. State Senator Kelda Royce joining us here live in the studio. What have I not asked you? As you hit the road, what are you going to go, the message from Superior to Green Bay to Richland Center to Milwaukee to Madison to Monroe? What are you telling people?
I think people out there are feeling really frustrated and in some sense hopeless, right? Powerless, because we see things happening in our country that we never wanted to see. And it's scary and it can be exhausting. And sometimes you just want to turn off the news and look away. I get that. But what I am hearing from people is they want something more, and they know that we can recapture some of that progressive, innovative spirit that helped make Wisconsin such a great place to live for our parents' generation. They want that, and we can build that here. No matter who you are or where you're from, as your governor, I am going to help you and your family thrive.
As you look, I want to be respectful of the time. A couple of minutes left here before I got to let you go. But healthcare in particular, you've worked with women's healthcare, reproductive rights, and we look up at the Chippewa Valley in terms of hospitals shutting down there. Mm-hmm. We see less access, potentially what's happening in Washington. What specifically, if you were governor, if you were sitting in that chair, what would you do for Wisconsinites to help on healthcare?
Well, number one, I would make sure that those who are suffering the effects of those hospital closures actually get the funds that they need. We have got to support our rural providers, critical access providers, and those in urban and underserved communities, right? That's one thing we have in common. But we also have to make many more investments in mental health care and behavioral health, because we've got to stop the opioid epidemic, and that's the best way to help people thrive. It's going to be a tough couple of years for Wisconsinites as hundreds of thousands lose their health care coverage thanks to the Republicans' bill. And we need a governor who's going to prioritize that.
Do you have your time in the legislature now? Is there a way, if you were governor, Kelda Royce, that you can reach across? I know you want Democratic majorities in the legislature, but let's say at least one house is still Republican. Can it still be done?
Absolutely. And my career shows that, Todd, because most of the accomplishments that I've had have been done, well, either there's total Republican control of the legislature or one house has been Republican. And even though I'm a Democrat, I have always worked across the aisle to build Republican support for my policies and to compromise where it's needed, because that's the state we live in, and that's what our constituents expect and deserve.
Kelda Royce, State Senator Kelda Royce, I cannot thank you enough for coming by this program. It means the world. You have an open mic here anytime. Exciting race. Safe travels out there. We'll look forward to talking to you soon.
Great to see you again.
My pleasure. You can find more at kelda4gov.com, right? kelda4gov.com. Come on back with more after this. You'll see the Civic Media's Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network.
MDX Madison, where the cheese is sharp and the vibes are chill.
Why are interscholastic sports called the last classroom of the day? Because they teach students important life lessons like teamwork, accountability, and perseverance. School sports are so much more than a game. They're about developing the whole person. That's why they're an essential part of every student's education.
Encourage your student to participate in the last classroom of the day. Interscholastic sports in Wisconsin. This message presented by the WIAA and the Wisconsin Athletic Directors Association.
Now is the moment we've been waiting for. With new treatments emerging in the fight against Alzheimer's and all other dementia, now is the time for hope and for action. Held in over 600 communities nationwide, the Alzheimer's Association Walk to End Alzheimer's is the world's largest fundraiser for care, support, and research to fight the disease. So get out, get moving, and join WMDX at the Walk to End Alzheimer's on Sunday, October 5th at Warner Park in Madison. Join the movement at alz.org/walk.
Amicus, a law review with Jim Santel.
Louisiana versus Calais, Callais, could deal a death blow to the impact, the power, the capacity of the Supreme Court to decide voting rights.
Well, how about that,
cases.
ladies and gentlemen? Got a gubernatorial candidate stopping by.
Good
stuff. That's fantastic.
From the public about the appropriate resolution of this major case that could compromise the Voting Rights Act going forward.
Do you have any songs you like for doctor or dentist? Because there are a lot of cheesy ones about doctors.
What Doctor.
Joining me. Donald
Da,
Trump just
da,
flat
da,
out
da, da. Who sings that?
Federal Reserve
Doctor.
Give me the news. I got a bad case shoving you.
Is that it?
Mortgage fraud,
Doctor. I think it's an 80s tune. I'm not sure.
There are different songs called Doctor.
Independent of politics.
Perry, are you watching? He'll know. Doctor.
This is the instability that causes economic crisis.
The award-winning Maggie Dawn Show, weekday afternoons from 4 until 6.
Teachers are diverse, skilled leaders, innovating to prepare students for our fast-changing world. Teaching shapes lives. Are you ready? Explore teaching at teach.org, supported by the U.S. Department of Education
Yeah,
and 1 million teachers of
Robert Palmer. Thank you, David New Berlin. Show on the Civic Media Radio Network, and it's 22 past the hour of 3 o'clock. Well, how about that? On Monday, September 15th, 2025. Many thanks to to my former boss, State Senator Dale Schultz, hour number 1, but from current State Senator Kelda Royce, Democrat, stopping by the studio in her announcement today that she is running for governor of the state of Wisconsin. Appreciate her time. Appreciate our staff's time. It takes time when you do these things. I know I've been on that side of it to coordinate everything, and it's not a small thing to get around to media. So I really appreciate them taking this time. Look, I've said I think the Democrats have a lot of good candidates coming out here now. I think there's a lot of great choices. I like Lieutenant Governor Sarah Rodriguez. I think she has a lot of unique from her background to being a statewide elected official to her common sense approach. I like that. I think David Crowley, being a county executive of Milwaukee County, the state's largest municipality, getting the endorsement from Mayor Cavalier Johnson and his experience, and he spent time in the legislature. I think that's great. I think that State Senator Kelda Royce, having done this once before, running for governor, and I really do think that she has grown as a legislator in her time in office. She's held true to her beliefs, but she's done a great job of maturing in a way where she listened to other voices and remains curious and has traveled the state. She's come out to where I was from originally, Southwest Wisconsin, talking about two-year colleges out there. So I think the Democrats have some great choices, maybe more to come, although I like this field. I kind of like the field where it's at. I'm fearful if it gets too depleted in terms of, or too diluted with too many candidates, that's just going to split the vote. I don't know. But
yeah, it's a good problem to have overall.
I haven't got a horse in the race. I'm not choosing sides in the Democratic primary. I wish them all well. And but many thanks to State Senator Kelda Royce for coming on. Again, Kelda4, F-O-R, Kelda4gov.com is where you can watch that entire announcement and have more information there. All right, 25 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock. Time once again for What's Worse. Let's go.
This or that, this or that. Then, of course, the choice is yours. You can get with this or you can get with that.
Time once again for What's Worse. Nothing can wait, no prize, money involved. It is your chance to have your voice heard on all 10 Civic Media News Talk sports stations across the state of Wisconsin. Here we go. It's that time. A lot of people, I had my annual physical a couple, 3 weeks ago. Kind of the sports physicals for high school kids is over. Well, unless I guess you got kids going into winter sports. That's still to come. Also the time of year, maybe when you're got to get some dental work done. So, as we say, Mike Lucas says, timely indeed. The category today, what's worse, dentist or doctor? Dentist or doctor? 855-752-4842. 855-752-4842. What's worse, dentist or doctor? Also can text us on the Civic Media app. Simply go to your app store, your Apple or Android device. Type in Civic, C-I-V-I-C, Media. It'll pop up. Cute little M logo. CM logo. You click on that, takes less than a minute. It's free. It's what CBS's Gail King calls a deal. The Civic Media app. What's worse, dentist or doctor? By the way, Zamers, did you watch any of the Emmy Awards last night?
I did not.
We'll talk more about that maybe an hour in the second half hour here. I watched most of the Emmys last night. Nate Bargatze was the host, and he's mixed reviews at best.
Really?
I'll talk a little bit more about this later. It was kind of a interesting shtick to start the show off, but it kind of didn't go real well, I don't think. It was. I'll tell you, the brief part of it was because a lot of these people, they go too long on their acceptance speeches, and so they try to shorten them to 45 seconds. And so Bargatze starts off by saying, hey, I've got a couple of kids here for the Boys and Girls Club. Great organization, by the way. I'm donating $100,000 to the Boys and Girls Club of America. But for every second that a celebrity goes over your 45 minutes or 45 second acceptance speech, I'm going to deduct $1,000.
That's pretty funny.
It was funny at first, but he didn't let up. And then, people worked all their lives and they're up there, and while they're giving their acceptance speech, on some of them, they put a tally clock up on the screen saying how much money was being taken away.
Ooh.
It kind of got old after a short time. So we'll talk more about that later. What's worse, dentists or doctors? 855-752-4842, 855-752-4842. And by the way, we're not calling out like this specific people. I love all dentists and doctors. Anybody in healthcare is a hero to me. But the experience going to the dentist, going to the doctor. Charles in Milwaukee, listening on WAUK, says they both are horrible because they take all your money. Well, that's true, Charles, right? I mean, it's not necessarily the doctor or the dentist's
I blame America.
fault, right? I mean, that's a larger kettle. That's a large kettle of fish, as they say, right? Why things are so expensive. But yes, if you're paying for it out of your own pocket or you don't have great health insurance, well, yeah. PJ, watch on YouTube, says, I will say going to the dentist is worse because it's more expensive. Is it? I mean, I think it depends. Like if you're going to get a root canal and a crown versus getting your teeth cleaned.
That also surprises me. I mean, I guess it depends what health conditions people have.
I mean, I've told this story before. I had to go in, and this is several years. I mean, this is like what? Let me think now. This is probably like circa 2021. I had to go in and just for get medication, I go into the doctor to get it. Doctor never touched me. $400 and some just to go in for 10 minutes because I didn't have insurance at the time. All right, come on back. What's worse, going to the dentist or going to the doctor? 855-752-4842. We'll wrap that up and more on the other side. Farm News is next with Pam Yonke on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Madison, where the cheese is sharp and the vibes are chill.
Come work with us. Civic Media has a number of great jobs across the state. Open now at civicmedia.us/careers.
Livestock farm turned Christmas tree and maple syrup operation. That's not a story you hear every day. I'm Stephanie Hoff for the Midwest Farm Report. Along with you on a Monday, Dave Cook of Cook's Woods in Fenimore transitioned his family's cattle and hog operation to a choose and cut Christmas tree farm. He added maple syrup to the mix, and thanks to a state
goes back to what we were
program
talking about this
called
morning,
Something
right?
Special
I
from
agree.
Wisconsin,
It's good to know.
Good
for us to do it.
No, totally.
It was at least as simple as getting our name out there. At that point in time, not that I'm an expert now, but I didn't know anything about how to get listed anywhere, what opportunities, and also to come to understand what was a realistic goal here. We're a very small producer.
The Something Special from Wisconsin program is through the Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection. It elevates the stories of businesses like Cook's Woods in Fenimore. Dave Cook telling us that it helped get the word out about the new farm business and help set goals to move his Christmas tree farm and maple syrup operation forward. We'll take a look at closing markets next.
Dairy producers across the nation, start your engines. The road to Madison leads straight to the World Dairy Expo 2025,
Todd's
where
gone. Time to
innovation,
throw a party.
education, and global dairy connections await. Join fellow dairy producers, industry experts, future leaders, and the finest dairy cattle in North America when the dairy industry meets in Madison, Wisconsin, September 13th through October 3rd. Make the drive and be part of the dairy event of the year. World Dairy Expo 2025, the road to Madison starts with you. Map your trip today at worlddairyexpo.com.
At the Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection, they know your business has always been something special. Now you can let customers know it too, in an instant, with the red and yellow Something Special from Wisconsin sticker. Joining the program gives you access to supplier and distribution information,
the Colbert
marketing support,
speech?
and a community of like-minded Wisconsin businesses. Best of all, you'll let people know that your work is done with care, quality, and love. You've always been something special. Visit somethingspecialfromwisconsin.com to make it official.
On the close Monday from Chicago, December corn is down 6 3/4 cents at $4.23 1/4. November soybeans down 3 1/2 at $10.42 3/4. Wheat is moving in the other direction. Cash wheat is up a penny and a half, closing at $5.25 a bushel. July 2026 new crop wheat up 2 cents at $5.63 3/4. The fluid milk contracts are mixed.
I would
with
say
the October
maybe
Class
not
3
until
milk
we hear more
contract
about
up
it.
16
I don't know.
cents
That's my thought.
at 16.48 to hundredweight. The November
we'll do the
contract is up
Colbert.
4 cents at 16.25. But looking ahead, the December and the January contract are both trading lower. We did see a small lift in the cheese price. The 40-pound block closed up 1/4 cent at $1.61 3/4. But AA butter continues to get hit, down 4 cents at $1.82 per pound. For the Midwest Farm Report, I'm Stephanie Hoff.
Catch Farm Report updates throughout the day from the Midwest Farm Report, right here
One of our
on
texters is mentioning a
92.7
colonoscopy.
WMDX.
You know what?
Hi, meteorologist Brandon Bormans. It will continue to feel like summer for much of this week. Sunny skies expected for
I
today
want
with
one
highs
because
in
my
the
digestive
mid-80s.
system is so
Mostly
messed up.
clear
I just want them to
tonight
look
with
and
lows
see
in the
what's
upper
wrong.
50s.
Well, ask
Plenty
your
of sunshine
doctor.
again on
Yeah,
Tuesday, a
I
high of
should.
84. You guessed it, more of the same on Wednesday. Sunny with a high of 84. Right now, 82.
Doctor.
Hey there, Wisconsin. Tom Hartman here.
each
We
and
just get
every
two Tom
weekday right
Hartman
here on Civic
in a
Media
row?
for the Tom Hartman program from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Covering the
Shouldn't
news
be
of the day
legal.
and sharing ways for you to get off the sidelines and get active in your community because change starts with you.
Also, I
Get
only have
involved and
one
tune
in
in
the
to the
system.
Tom Hartman program Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. right here on your local Civic Media radio station.
Weird.
The John and Gordy
Weird.
Show.
We're talking with Mike McCabe. We have this whole thing where people's jobs are being replaced with AI and robots.
Yeah. We have to make sure that just all of the proceeds,
All right,
the
thank you.
savings that are achieved by replacing.
Pursuing truth wherever it may lead and having fun doing it. Welcome back to the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network. Glad to have you along. 35 past the hour of 3 o'clock on Monday, September 15th. Glad to have you along. Zommers on the board. Right in the middle of today's What's Worse. We'll talk Emmys before we get out of here. Also, have a great cut from Christian Yelich, basically the leader of the Milwaukee Brewers, as they clinched a playoff spot this weekend. Gave a great speech. Gonna let you hear that, courtesy of Mike Clemens here coming up. And also a little bit of a 10-year-old who puts things in perspective, and we'll hear from Stephen Colbert before we get out of here. But right now, going to the dentist or going to the doctor? What's worse? 855-752-4842. 855-752-4842. Also text us on the Civic Media app. Paul in Spooner, listening on WBZH, says, I have been taken from my dentist's office and my doctor's office, each by ambulance. Fainting and seizures is my specialty. I hate going to both of them.
I
Wow.
would too if I had gone through that.
Wow, I've heard of that before. Going to the dentist, and it's not the dentist's fault. It's just, you have a condition where you might get a lot of anxiety or
epilepsy, and you got the light shining right in your eyes.
Adverse medication. But yeah, that's heart goes out to you, Paul. That's a tough one there. Also, shout out, by the way, to Dave in New Berlin for listening in via the stream. He helped us out. Zommer's always great saying there's a lot of doctor songs. I said, what's that one that's doctor, da 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 da. And Robert Palmer is the artist. Dave in New Berlin gave us that one. So thank you very much, Dave, for playing today's edition of Music Trivia on the stream on the Todd Allbaugh Show. Megan in Sun Prairie, listening on WMDX, says the doctor is typically worse. I have had doctors that don't seem to be paying full attention and just want to usher in the next patient. My questions don't always get answered. Never had a dentist do that to me. Megan, now this is a great point. And I'm not, no paid endorsements here, but my doctor at University of Health in Madison now, Dr. Allbaugh, great guy. And really, I talked about this a couple, 3 weeks ago after I had my annual physical. Listens to you, doesn't rush you out. And he said that he consciously has changed how he practices medicine to do a better job at that. So really appreciate anybody, but particularly those in healthcare that say, wait, I got to do a better job with my patients.
Yeah, being aware of a systematic issue and working to fix it, can't ask for more than that.
Oh, absolutely. And we've talked before about my great dentist at First Choice Dental, Dr. Rob. So he's fantastic as well. What else? Yeah, Henry, listening in on Madison on WMDX, says, going to the dentist is worse. My last visit, I was told I needed a crown, but first I needed a root canal. $4,000. Thank you, sir. May I have another? It adds up. I mean, we're fortunate to have kind of basic dental service here, and very thankful for that. But I've been in the position, like I said before, where I didn't have dental insurance and really didn't have health insurance.
Or certain things dental insurance won't cover.
Right.
Like some of my friends have gotten Invisalign, instead of getting braces as an adult because the dentist looked at it and they're like, okay, your teeth are fine now, but it's not going so well. In the future, this will cost you a lot of money and cause you a lot more problems.
Yeah.
But it's not strictly necessary, so his insurance won't pay for it.
Wow.
So he's pretty much out of pocket for Invisalign. It's really expensive. And he's like, well, it's going to be more painful and cost more if I don't do it in the future.
Eats up a lot of your monthly budget, certainly. Allie, listening in Madison, WMDX, says going to the dentist is worse unless you're going in for a colonoscopy. And she says that. Now, timely indeed are the responses. PJ, watching on YouTube, first one, he said, last time I went to the dentist, I spent over $8,000 on my teeth just to get my teeth restored. And he follows it up with saying a colonoscopy isn't that bad. I had mine done last year. And I think that's a great reminder in all seriousness. Look, if you have a history of colon cancer or things like that in your family, got to have that done. My doctor is having me do the old Cologuard, poop in a bag and send it in type of thing.
But you know what?
Hey,
better.
You got to find out.
Less uncomfortable for sure.
Now, you're saying, you don't hear this very often. You said over the break you want a colonoscopy?
Yeah, I've kind of wanted one for years. I know that's not something I'm not
laughing at you. It's
I know,
just,
it's
you
very
don't
funny.
hear that very often.
Exactly. But it's because my digestive system is very messed up. I just want, I instead of all the guesswork that happens, like when you're a young person with digestive issues and you go into the GI doctor, they're like, oh, you tried this? We'll try this. We'll try that. We'll try this. We'll try this. It could be this. It could be that. It could be this. I just want them to look and figure it out and be done with it.
So there you go. So for Zommers, maybe what's worse is not having a colonoscopy. I've heard, like I said, I've never had it, but I've heard that it really isn't that. It's kind of like getting your wisdom teeth out, people have told me, where you go in, they kind of put you under, sedate you slightly, and then when you wake up, it's just, you don't really remember anything. So get that done, folks, in all seriousness. Don't mess around with your health. Jenny, our very own Jenny Brand, is on brand on YouTube, says, the doctor, because is worse, she says, because far too many times I don't feel very heard and my concerns are overlooked. At least I walk out of the dentist office with the work done. Well, I've heard that a couple of times today. Thanks, Jenny. Appreciate that. But I think that's a good reminder. Like I say, my doctor, Dr. Todd Allbaugh at UW Health, said specifically that I don't know if it was a class or a seminar or what he does now, and he asks you before you do it. He has a special software program where he says, is it okay if I record our visit?
Yeah, that's becoming common.
And so he starts that off on the phone. So everything we talk about is recorded. And then I suppose it's all voice tracked. And so the computer then summarizes that and it goes in my file so that he can then reflect on that in future visits. So we can go back and say, we talked about this and this, or at the end of and then at the end of my visit, my physical, he reviewed it. Not necessarily, it wasn't from the recording, but just said, okay, we talked about this, we talked about this, we talked about that. Here's what we're going to do. Is there anything else that was on your mind?
Yeah, that's one of the really constructive uses of AI is to listen to your conversation and summarize it so that your doctor can use it and refer back.
Allie, listening in Madison.
That's the same one.
Oh, sorry, we already did that one. All right, very good. I'm sorry, thank you. Yeah. On dentist is worse, less a colonoscopy. I get it. Nobody wants to necessarily talk about it, but unless you're Sommers. No. But it's important stuff. Don't mess around with that because too many and younger people are being diagnosed with colon cancer because they ignore the warning signs and don't go in and have these tests done. If you're able, if they're available, especially if you have health insurance or Obamacare, go in and get this done and have those tough conversations with your healthcare professional. I know it's uncomfortable, but they're sworn to secrecy.
Well, go in and get it done if you have, reason to.
Well, yeah.
Or are at the age where they recommend it.
Correct. Terry, our very own Terry Barr, watch on YouTube, says, dentists frighten me. Really? Really, Terry? They frighten you? Like the person themselves or the experience of going to a dentist? Because I love going to my dentist. I don't know. They're very friendly. My teeth feel better after I'm done. So I don't know. All right, well, great. That was a great rendition, a great addition. We'll have
Well,
more.
we didn't give our answers.
Oh, I'm sorry. Zombers, what's worse, dentist or doctor?
I think I'm going to have to say doctor. I like the doctors that I have. Found some, like a couple of specialists and a GP that I really like and, are attentive and listen. But as others have said, especially for women, and as somebody with 3 sisters, I've seen this happen a lot. They'll bring up something that's wrong, and then the doctor will be like, "Oh, it's because you're a woman or you're anxious. That's it. It's not real." And they won't listen. And this problem is getting better, but it still is a real issue, and it can be so much harder to find what's wrong when you're considering your entire body. For the dentist, you go in, and they look at what's wrong and tell you, and most of the time they can just see it, and it's one part of your body. So for me, it's just simpler, and I like that.
I get that. I appreciate that. I like I said, I don't mind going for both. I'm thankful that I have health insurance right now that I can go see both and not have it cost me an arm and a leg. I would say, I guess, if I had to choose one, the experience of the doctor is worse. No offense to any of my physicians, but usually I don't go to the doctor unless I'm truly sick, unless it's for a checkup, where a dentist is a lot more preventative care, cleaning, that type of stuff. So I don't always have a quote-unquote problem when I go see the dentist. More often than not, I have a problem if I'm going to the doctor. So, all right, great edition of What's Worse. More tomorrow in the 3 o'clock hour on our What's Worse edition. All right, I want to get to this. It's 45 minutes past the hour or quarter. It's either 45 past 3 or quarter to 4, whichever you prefer. I want to get to this. Christian Yelich, Brewers clinched a playoff spot, thus my October baseball shirt over the weekend. Their magic number now to win the National League Central down to 8 to get the number 1 seed and the overall number 1 seed in Major League Baseball. It's 11. Postseason bye is 6. So 8 gets you the NL Central, the important next step. Christian Yelich on Saturday, after the Brewers clinched a playoff spot, they gave a champagne toast. It was not one of the big shake all the bottles, everybody gets wet. It was just a simple toast. After the game, after they got that big comeback win, 9-8 over St. Louis, and Christian Yelich stepped forward and gave this toast to the team from Saturday night.
You should never take the postseason for granted. People play their entire careers and never get to experience it. We've been fortunate here. Guys that have been here for a while, we've got to experience it a lot. We haven't accomplished what we want to accomplish, but there's something to be said for being on a postseason team, playing winning baseball. Guys that are doing it for the first time, they realize how hard that is, how much the commitment you have to make to yourself and each other, right? To mentally prepare and physically prepare to go out there and put it on the line every night. And the cool thing about these celebrations, and hopefully we have a bigger one than just this tonight, is you remember that for the rest of your life, right? And you should enjoy it and you should take it in. But it's not the end, right? Like, this team we're this kind of team because of how much we care for each other and how we play for each other and how good of friends we are. And we have the opportunity to be friends for life, right? We go and do this whole thing and go where we want to go. Everybody in this room is friends for life. And that starts with the belief. You speak it into existence, you see it, you visualize it, you believe that we can do it. We're playing with house money, right? Like Merch said, nobody thought we could do this. Nobody expected us to be here. Everybody thought we were going to have a losing record. Look at us now.
That is Christian Yelich, the de facto captain of the Milwaukee Brewers baseball team after they clinched a playoff spot on Saturday, plus got that come from behind big win Saturday night, 9-8, the Crew did over St. Louis. And Zommers, when I listen, to watch it and to listen to it as well, that's the real deal. There's no acting going on, in my opinion. These guys truly care about each other, and they're motivated for all the right reasons.
Yeah, it's remarkable watching a team with such humility and dedication, and they're just all locked in all the time, all for one for all.
Yeah, really, really great. They're off today. The Brewers are back in action at AmFam Field on Tuesday, tomorrow night. Pre-game show at 6:05. First pitch just after 6:35. You can listen in Richland Center, Oshkosh, and in Hayward on the Brewers Radio Network. Who Sang Me a Goodbye? I have my own version of the Family Von Trapp. We'll play it for you. Not going to miss it after this on the Civic Media Radio Network. Which I have to send you this.
I was going to say, what?
This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
You're listening to the American Democracy Minute, keeping your government by and for the people. The American Bar Association has issued a final report and recommendations from its ABA Task Force for American Democracy. The report calls for major reform to elections, civics education, and the role of lawyers in defending constitutional governance. The project was chaired by former U.S. Secretary of Homeland Security Jay Johnson, a Democrat, and former U.S. federal judge J.
All right.
Michael Ludig.
This is Brady's boys
On
singing me
several
goodbye.
reforms, the report calls for substantial state and federal investments in K-12
See if it went
civics
through.
education. It recommends establishing citizen-led independent redistricting commissions to reduce the partisan and racial gerrymandering unfolding right now in Texas and other states.
I don't get sung to
It
very
encourages
often, so
states
it's
to
very
adopt
nice.
open primaries, ranked choice voting, or fusion voting to reduce polarization and increase accountability. The report also calls for expanding automatic and same-day registration, standardizing early and mail voting procedures, and an election day holiday. For election workers, the report calls for depoliticizing selection of election officials and setting professional standards and codes of responsibility.
I queued it up to
It also
after you
calls
said,
for
all right,
better
go ahead.
protections of those workers and the funding to support it. For lawyers, ABA recommends more law school training.
All right, boys, if you're watching, I told him I was going to play it
lawyers'
today.
responsibility to uphold the rule of law. We've linked the full report at AmericanDemocracyMinute.org. I'm Brian Beal.
The Dane County Humane Society offers programs for
Oh,
humans
our
of all
good
ages.
friend, my former pastor, Sarah Cheney, checking in from the great state of Missouri, or if you're in Missouri, Missouri. Sarah says, as a DNA Cardinals fan, and let me tell you, she is, you're welcome. It is the Brewers' year. Enjoy. Great speech by Yelich, all true. Thank you, Sarah. I thought of her actually this weekend. And Sarah, I can't remember what year she came to peace. It wasn't very long after a couple, 3 years after St. Louis had beat the Brewers in the World Series in the 80s. And from the pulpit, she was talking about being a St. Louis Cardinals fan. Turned out otherwise, she was fine.
Those who have lost everything. The Army National Guard always responds when disaster strikes. The Army National Guard also trains to be ever vigilant against threats, foreign and domestic. They protect our skies with missile defense weaponry. They secure our information, communications, and infrastructure with cybersecurity. And they protect us against chemical, biological, and radiological hazards with the civilian support team. The Army National Guard also stands ready to
30
deploy and
seconds.
provide support for conflicts or
All right, thank you.
humanitarian missions.
Welcome back to the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network. Glad to have you along. Mr. Aaron Zommers on the board at 8 minutes before the hour of 4 o'clock. At the top of the hour, ABC or CBS News. Depending upon which of our great stations you're listening to, a check of weather by Brittany Merlot. Fabulous. That's what the weather is. Fabulous fall day here in the state of Wisconsin. Going to be nice in the 80s until later on in the week. Little rain coming into the forecast. Things cooling down, but all in all, pretty nice. Mike Clemens in with sports. Brewers, as we said, are off today, back in action against the Los Angeles Angels at 6 o'clock for the pregame show on the Brewers Radio Network. Tomorrow, played that cut from Christian Yelich after they clinched the postseason last segment. Our old friend, my former United Methodist pastor, Sarah Cheney. Sarah Jo Cheney, thank you very much. Watching us down on Facebook in the great state of Missouri, or if you're from there, Missouri, she writes, as a DNA Cardinals fan, you're welcome. It's the Brewers' year. Enjoy. Great speech by Yelich. All true. And she is 100%. When she says DNA, like it's in her. I don't remember the exact year she came to Peace Church. It was 2 or 3 years after the Brewers won the the Cardinals beat the Brewers in the World Series in '82. And from the pulpit on one of her first speeches, she was bragging about the fact that she was a Cardinals fan. It did not sit real well. And you start to wonder about somebody like that. Turned out she was fantastic about everything else. So that's big for Sarah to congratulate Brewers fans. So I appreciate that, Sarah. She does know I became a Packers fan too. That is true. I'm not sure if that was before or after the football Cardinals left St. Louis. But she let's just give her the benefit of the doubt. She did become a Packers fan as well. All right, let's get this in quick. Emmy Awards last night. Biggest applause of the evening when Stephen Colbert came out to do a presentation at the beginning and then won the award for Best Talk Show because he's never won before. And CBS canceled the show earlier this year, going to be done in May. And when they announced that Colbert won, the room erupted. Here was Stephen Colbert's acceptance speech after winning the Emmy last night.
Sometimes you only truly know how much you love something when you get a sense that you might be losing it. And 10 years later, in September of 2025, my friends, I have never loved my country more desperately. God bless America. Stay strong, be brave, and if the elevator tries to bring you down, go crazy and punch a higher floor. Woo!
I love that. When the elevator tries to bring you down, go crazy and punch a higher floor. The ultimate optimist. Really love that about Stephen Colbert. Congratulations. We got time, I think, for the 10-year-old cut. This is one of those. There's some music behind it because it's one of those I found on Instagram, and I apologize. I don't know who the kid is. Here's the setup. He went to an event in Los Angeles for the Los Angeles Dodgers, and I'm sorry I don't know all the Dodgers. It was one of the famous Dodgers that's sitting there at a meet and greet.
Clayton Kershaw.
Thank you, Zommers. Clayton Kershaw, famous Dodger. And this 10-year-old boy has the chutzpah to go forward, go to the microphone in front of everybody, and says the following. And what he does here, and Kershaw, right? His response is
Kershaw.
Thank you. Kershaw's response was fantastic. Here is a meet and greet with a 10-year-old boy and the Los Angeles Dodgers.
I want to tell you a quick little story.
Okay.
So my grandpa loved you. He watched the 1988 series, and he wanted to meet you and Vince Scully one day. So this moment is important to me because I'm meeting you for him.
Oh, wow.
And he was from Redondo Beach, and a little while ago, some years ago, he died from brain cancer.
Sorry about that, buddy.
And oh my gosh.
Oh, come here, dude. It's great to meet you. Oh, great to meet you. Thanks for telling me. That took a lot of courage to tell me that, so I appreciate that. It was great to meet you. Granddad sounded like an awesome guy. Yeah? Okay, good, buddy. All right. Thanks for coming up. That took a lot of courage, man. That was awesome. Thanks, buddy.
Thank you for your time.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming. All right. Is there do you have a parent here or anything? Yeah, Take a picture. I'm just a cameraman, security.
I wanted to play that because it kind of tugs at your heartstrings. I love the fact that this 10-year-old kid has the chutzpah to go up in a room full of adults and be so articulate and tell a hero of his, I'm here for my grandpa that died and couldn't be here. And Crenshaw to have the humility to come around from the table and give the kid a hug and compliment him and say, hey, that took a lot of courage. And then the kid says, thank you for your time. And Crenshaw's like, are you here with a parent or anybody? Because the kid's all alone in the front of the room. I have my own serenading. You heard Sound of Music, the Van Trapp family? I was with the family Von Ewing yesterday at the Brewers game. Brady Ewing, his family, his dad, a brother-in-law, all these boys. Nothing better than going to a baseball game with kids. And when they let me out at my place here in Madison, all four boys, unannounced, gave me a singing send-off. I said, do that again. I'm going to record it. I asked Brady if it was okay if I played it. So here is how I got serenaded out of the SVUV yesterday in Madison by the brothers Van Ewing.
Bye, Todd. We'll see you again.
How about that? What's
The perfect goofy kid thing to do.
right? Just all four of them unannounced. Bye, Todd. And Brady said they were singing that all the way back to Richland
I
Center.
bet they were.
But it was fantastic. Four great guys and their two cousins as well. Nothing better than seeing the joy and excitement on a kid's face at a baseball game. That's what it's all about. Hope, everybody. Thank you very much for State Senator Calder Royce for being here on our announcement for governor, and Dale Schultz as well, talking about civility. Thanks to Zommers, all of you for listening. Maggie Dawn is next. Don't miss it. Until tomorrow, Todd saying whatever you're fighting for, whatever you believe in, do not give up. Keep banging your drum. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Adios.